Hi,
Hey,
how are
Katie.
you?
Welcome. I'm doing well. Excited to chat with you and to hear some pieces of your story
Yeah,
today. Thank you so much
yeah,
for
of
being
course.
here.
Me too.
Awesome. Well, hello everyone. Welcome. See people streaming in. Feel free to wave, say hi. During this conversation, y'all can also feel free to post questions in the chat. If we see them, we'll kind of try to weave them in. But if not, we also have someone from Mindbloom moderating and can answer any curiosities you have. So, Katie, would love to start by just hearing a bit about you. If you could share a bit about yourself and kind of your past experience with mental health leading to
Yeah,
Mindbloom.
so just to start off, I'm definitely a little bit nervous. I just have to get that out there and it makes me feel better. So here we go. My name is Katie. I'm a mom of three. I was actually a teenage mom. I am also a military spouse and a photographer. I live in Southern California and I've honestly suffered with or just struggled with mental health ever since I was a teenager. So I'd say half my life. It began with panic attacks and night terrors when I was a teenager. So that's what first led me to traditional therapy and the use of medication. And then about 10 years ago, I started passing out and I was having convulsions. So at that point, I was hospitalized actually many times. And every time they would send me home and just say it was stress. And I didn't understand that. So 10 years ago, I really began down like a deep healing journey and just tried everything. Alternative medicines. I had been in therapy for 10 years before that. I've been in and out of therapy. So it's been a long, long journey for me.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that with us, a bit about your experience and what you've tried. You mentioned you tried therapy, some other alternative modalities. Could you speak a bit to like what else you tried or
Yeah.
experienced leading up
Yeah.
to
So
Mindbloom?
I did hypnotherapy for 10 years, which just, I wouldn't be who I am without that. That began when I was a teenager. Traditional talk therapy, on and off medication. I did do EMI, which is a form of EMDR, which I saw a lot of benefit from also. And then I did alternative medicine. So I'm also a Reiki practitioner. I've done acupuncture, cupping, just like all the things, pretty much anything you could really think of. I have tried.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you found Mindbloom and tried that too. So it sounds like you experienced something different
Yeah.
with that. Um, I was curious to know too. Oh,
Well, I
go
just
ahead.
wanted to say too,
Yeah.
like everything that I have tried, it's not like nothing helped. Like everything did help and it kept leading me on this path to who I am today. So it's like it all did something.
Yeah, I love that kind of like this cumulative process of one foot in front of the other, trying something that opens up
Yeah,
another door.
yeah,
It's really beautiful.
exactly.
And in terms of Mindbloom, was there a particular moment where you felt really called to try Mindbloom? What was
Yeah,
that like?
so like I said, I had been down a deep journey of healing for 10 years. I was feeling pretty good, honestly, until about 6 months ago when I moved back to San Diego. We were gone for 3 years. I came back, and San Diego is where a lot of the people who have abused me in the past live and where a lot of trauma did happen. And I just really did not feel safe here. And I went on a downward slope pretty quickly. My depression, I do have major depressive disorder, and it was found later that I have PTSD. And I just became very depressed very quickly, and it was getting worse. And ketamine therapy had been in my head for the past 3 years. And there was a day where my husband was taking my kids out of the house because it would get to the point where I couldn't get out of bed. I would get so burnt out or so depressed that I would just be in bed, like unable to move. I wouldn't talk. And he was taking the kids out of the house and he said, "Do you want to say goodbye?" And at that point, I literally didn't want to say goodbye to my kids. I just didn't answer him because I felt like that would have been my goodbye. That would have been enough for me to just be done. So I knew I needed to do something and I needed to do something different that would have a big impact. And I had, like I said, heard about ketamine therapy from different psychiatrists and friends who are therapists. So
Hmm. Yeah, Katie, thank you for sharing that piece of your story. Like, so powerful to hear
Yeah.
that. You know, you had that experience and that it led you to Mindbloom and that you made that choice. I'm so glad you made that choice. And yeah, for anyone out there that's dealing with something similar, you know, suicidal ideation, know that it's really common and there's a lot of support out there, like Mindbloom and otherwise. Like Katie mentioned, there's so many different modalities, out there to try. So
And I
yeah.
think that people don't realize that when people turn to suicide, it's not like they're giving up, it's that they genuinely feel like everybody's better off without them. At least in my case, like, and I've heard that before. Like, I have 3 kids, I have a family who
Mm.
I know loves me, but I felt like such a burden at that point that it just felt like that was best for everybody. And like now that I'm on the other side, I'm like, oh my gosh, it's crazy how you can think like that.
Yeah, it's really powerful to hear. And so I'm curious about that. Like, how has Mindbloom shifted your parenting or the way that you are a parent to
Yeah,
your children?
so I feel like before Mindbloom, I being okay and feeling safe was so much work. Like I had done so many healing like modalities. I had so many things in my toolbox, but just to be in the present moment and feel joy and calm was so much work. I was constantly thinking about it. And even from my very first session, it was like I was planted in the present moment. I immediately felt lighter. And that
Mm.
day, like it just immediate, there's immediate difference. And I didn't know if that was just the medication and if that would wear off, but it definitely wasn't. It stuck with me. So that's the biggest thing is that I'm able to feel joy and calm and connection and not feel so forced. It's just natural now. Truly.
Oh, wow. Beautiful. So it's like, it sounds like this underlying theme of presence you experienced in a session and it lasted with you and the days after and the times after with your children. And has that left? Like, what's that experience like of being present? Like, how do you
Yeah,
relate to
no, I
being
still
present?
feel that way. And in the moment too, it's like I notice what's triggering me. I notice what's going on. I notice what I need to do instead of there being this big issue or big thing that leads me down this spiral. And then I look back and I'm like, oh, this is what was going on. Like, truly, instead of that, it's like I see the bigger perspective and I see what's going on in the moment.
Mm. Wow. So it's like this expanded awareness of the present moment so that you can actually process in real time versus, going back and looking at a reactive situation and
Yeah,
understanding then what it means.
exactly.
That's really powerful to hear. And so does that, how do the benefits you receive through Mindbloom treatment, how has that differed from like your traditional
Yeah,
SSRIs?
so honestly, in so many ways. With the SSRIs, I went on them as a teenager. I then became pregnant at 19, so I wanted to be off medication, but I've been on and off them, and it always felt like they would help. And again, it was like I would take them and realize, like, oh, I was suffering, and I didn't even realize it because it would make a difference, but it didn't feel like it would ever last. Like it would either wear off or I would just like not be myself anymore, not feel like myself, that sort of thing. And so with the Mind Bloom therapy, it helped me get to the bottom of things, especially with traditional talk therapy. I felt like I was going to therapy and I was reliving everything, talking about it, but it wasn't helping me work through things. It was more just like describing it for the therapist. And I had a few different therapists, but with Mind Bloom, my biggest thing that I've been telling everybody too is that you have so many deep realizations and see things from such a different perspective while you're on the medication of Mind Bloom in the session. And emotions come up that you had no idea were even there towards people, about events. You see events in such a different way that like your subconscious must see it that way, but you don't even realize. So it just, there were so many mind blowing, it should be mind blowing, right? There were so many different like mind blowing things that came up for me. And not only during my sessions, but like the week afterwards, I would have tiny triggers that would remind me of such a huge thing in the past. And I would be triggered and I would know immediately, wow. And I actually had a realization that it was like when I came back to San Diego, it was as if I was living in my old home when I lived here as a teenager. And I didn't even realize it until I was very triggered by something. And yeah, that's just the biggest thing is it helped me work through my issues and quickly instead of SSRIs, which I do feel like cover it up unless you are doing a lot of inner work also on top of them.
Yeah. Wow. A lot of a lot of deep processing and awareness through this medicine, and that's something, yeah, we hear from a lot of our clients. That time with the
Yeah,
ketamine and themselves is a time to understand themselves and connect to
serious.
themselves. And so how has this shifted your relationship with
I definitely
yourself?
take better care of myself. I it sounds silly, but like I do, I love myself and I loved myself before, but again, it was so much work. It was like saying affirmations, like reminding myself. And now I think with those realizations too, I just see so much of what I've gone through and I have come out on the other side. And I did realize that before, but not at the depth um, and it also helped me to understand that things weren't my fault or I acted a certain way because of this. Like, I'm not a bad person. I'm a person who's been through things and I've struggled and I'm still trying. So it's helped me take care of myself too. Like, yeah, and just give myself that space and that time and know that I deserve it.
Mhm. I
Yeah.
love to hear that. I love to hear that you are honoring yourself and your experiences, what you went through, offering yourself compassion for those reactions in the past. And yeah, and it doesn't sound silly to say I love myself. We're really conditioned to believe that way, but I think it's really beautiful that you're able to say
Yeah.
that today. Yeah. And so thinking about this aspect of love for yourself and developing that over time, I'm seeing kind of a connection with prioritizing these sessions because as a parent it can be challenging, right? You have 3 kids to take care of, other responsibilities, and then you have to set aside 1 to 2 hours of time and ideally some time after that to complete your
Yeah.
session at home. So I'm curious how you were able to manage that, like what motivation that you used to do that, and just what that looked like for you. I know a lot of our clients deal with
Yeah,
that.
so for me, if not for being able to do it at home, I wouldn't have been able to do it at all. Especially with the IV therapy, I had looked into it, but you would have to drive there. My husband would have to drive me there with the kids and then pick me up, an hour, hour and a half. So that just wasn't accessible to us. So being able to do it at home, we had planned to do it on the weekend when he could be home to watch the kids and monitor me because you do have to be monitored every 15 minutes. And so we started out doing it in the morning, and I quickly realized that I did not want to be around my kids the rest of the day after my sessions because I would just feel irritable, like a little loopy and off. And then, you have to be around your kids, and it just feels funny. So we started doing it at night, and that way I could just put the kids to bed afterwards with my husband and then just lay in bed, watch TV, and go to bed. So really having it at home, it was really easy for us. It was a no-brainer. And especially as a mom, like, sorry, I knew I knew that I was taking that time and I had to take that time really for me at that point, but I knew the big picture that that time would all be of benefit to everybody in the family.
Mm, yes. Oh, I love to hear that too. Like really taking care of yourself, trusting that when you fill your own cup, it extends outwards. And love to hear that you prioritize that. And doing it at night is a great option when there's kids around. And typically it can make us feel relaxed and help
Is
us go to
it?
bed too.
Yeah.
So,
That's actually one other thing, a big thing that I've noticed since the therapy is that I feel like before Mindbloom, I would go, 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 go until I was just burnt out and I had to be in bed and I couldn't, you know what I mean? Like once a week, something like that. But now I
mm,
really do. Like if I need the time, I tell my husband, like, I need an hour. I'm going to go take this time and then I will rejoin the family and you will all thank me for it. So it's stuck.
yeah, that's an awesome
Yeah.
habit to develop, just like becoming aware of where we're at energy wise, what we have to give, and like taking that time when we need it and
Yeah.
communicating it to our loved ones so that they can
Yeah.
support us with that and
And
vice
not
versa. And so, and
feeling
not what was
guilty
that?
about it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that's a huge piece. So, in terms of like routines and other habits, like how else did that shift for you? I'm hearing that one just come up of checking in, being aware, communicating your needs, and also you mentioned taking better care of
Yeah.
yourself.
Yeah.
What else does that look like?
I'd say that's the main thing is self-care and I guess it's not a routine, but just being in the present moment. But definitely it's been self-care routines because especially when you are struggling with mental health or depression, that just becomes so much work, like such an added step. Where like you don't want to take care of yourself because you're also worrying about taking care of everybody else at the same time. And now, like, I signed up with a personal trainer. I'm getting myself back before having my two other kids, and yeah, I'm taking that time for myself. I like to say like I did try to form a routine of waking up earlier, but that just it didn't happen. But just things for myself that are just making my life better in that way.
Yeah, beautiful. And better
Yeah,
for your family
when
too,
I'm
right?
myself. And I do have an older son, so even he was starting to see like I wasn't like my old self, and he would say to me like I want you to be like your old self. I'd be like I'm trying, but now I feel like I
Oh,
am like I really do.
yeah. If you could use three or so words to describe um, that being that you are today, like three words that really that you embody today after moving through treatment, what would they be?
Determined, very hopeful, and joyful. Which
Mm-hmm.
which joyful one I was working on for years. Like I would people would probably see me and consider me joyful because I had that permanent smile and that's what I needed to do growing up. That's who I needed to be. So, but I didn't feel it on the inside. Now I truly do. I do. I I go out and I have so much fun with my kids and I feel so grateful. It makes me emotional because I also realize like how much I wasn't enjoying moments with them before.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. It sounds like this medicine really supported you in getting greater access to yourself, like your full self, expanding your awareness, expanding your connection to yourself. And from that space, we have greater
Yeah.
choice, right? Like we're able to choose the joy, to choose the
Yeah.
presence.
And one thing I did want to say too, just because I don't know, like I said, I had done so much work on myself, and that's not to say now that like I'm really done and I'm healed and I never have to do anything again and I'm just gonna live like this forever. Like that's the hope, obviously, but I know that things come up in life and more layers come out. That's actually what happened to me 10 years ago, was that memories came out and that's what sent me, on that. So there's
Mm.
always that possibility. There's always more things that could happen. But for me, especially, I know that I will always return to this first and that this will be how I'll continue to make it through things because it does give you that perspective that nothing else I've ever tried has given me, not even close.
Mm. Wow, thank you for sharing that. I know that's something that a lot of us need to be reminded of or to hear, that one thing isn't going to solve everything, but one thing might support us in relating to things a bit differently. And that's like the true change of like building that
Yeah,
resiliency, that awareness.
exactly.
Mm. Katie, thank you so much for sharing all of this with us, for popping on here to share your story. And we're coming up at the end of our time together, but I want to check back in with you. Is there anything else that you want to share with our audience today, or anything that feels really important and alive for you?
The biggest thing is just when you lose hope, know that there's something out there that can help you find hope again. Like that's what we really need in this life is hope to keep going, and when you lose that, you can you can find it again.
I love that. Thank you
Thank
so much,
you.
Katie. Thank you for that message and your story. And Yeah, there's other options out there. If any of you are curious about Mindbloom, feel free to go on our website, email us, shoot us a DM. Like, we're here to support and answer any questions that you may
And
have. So
if
thank
anybody
you
has
all.
questions too, you can always reach out to me. I'm happy to answer it. I tell all my friends now to do Mindbloom. So
Awesome. Yeah, Katie's got some great content on her page. Definitely check it out. All right. Thank you all so much and have a beautiful
thank
rest
you.